It's always interesting when people say something isn't a big deal, but then they treat it like it's a really big deal. Hey there fellow cheesebags, I'm Fox with RealMarcFoxx, and this is Of Pronouns and Propaganda, specifically Starfield. Let's get into it.
I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to!
While it may be old hat news by now, back in the early days of September of 2023, last year as of the upload of this video, there was a streamer by the name of Heel vs Babyface. He was streaming Starfield up until he encountered a certain little segment in the character creation screen. Why don't we take a look?
I just want to say something to you, Bethesda. Just want to say a little something. Bethesda, there is nothing I love more than to sit down, turn on my PC, fire up a brand new RPG, lose myself, think, oh my god, just think of this world, just think of all the planets I can visit. I'm so excited to go there. And you know, I love nothing more than to be dragged out at every conceivable opportunity so you can current day us. Sorry, did you want to get immersed in our world? Yeah, well, guess what? Pronouns! Gender ambiguity! Current day Californian shit! Because that's all we know! Because we're boring! We're so boring! Fuck your immersion! Fuck you having a good time! Fuck you falling into a world and just getting lost! No, no, no! Current day! You take everything we love, all our immersions, all our fantasies, all our escapism, and you just can't help shovel your dog shit, crap ideology into everything! Every single solitary thing!
Oh boy, current day political issues, specifically pronouns. I'm so excited to see that in my video games. So not surprisingly, this led to a chain of reactions from your standard cabal of anti-gamer journalists, you know many of the outlets I'm referring to, who decided to malign Heel vs Babyface with typical anti-heteronormative slurs like redacted and the like. Obviously, the anti-gamer journalists, being left-wingers, took a side completely against him, but many gamers sided with Heel vs Babyface. An outlet known as The Pink News, a radical left-wing website that likes to push the gender confusion movement, decided to malign Heel vs Babyface in addition to another streamer and YouTuber known as Dr. Disrespect. They used the typical anti-heteronormative attacks and of course sided against them on this issue. Not surprisingly, there was a lot of anti-male, anti-gamer rhetoric. They also mentioned a completely unrelated temporary suspension that Dr. Disrespect had back in 2019, but that doesn't seem to have anything to do with anything other than them shilling another one of their articles with a clickable hypertext link. However, I can't blame them because I take every opportunity I can to shill my novel, New Tokyo, by MarcFoxx, available on Amazon, link in the description. But credit where credit is due, because the author of this article, going by the name of Amelia Hansford, did not actively go after them simply because they're white. That's a typical strategy for left-wing websites like this. It may just be that he, she, they, them forgot, but benefit of a doubt here. One of the issues not mentioned in the article is that the pronouns seem to have very little, if not nothing, to do with the game. In fact, in Starfield, you choose your pronouns at the beginning, and as far as I can tell, they don't really come up again. So what's the point? Why would they put this current day political issue into the game? It would obviously bother some people, and it's completely pointless. It's as if it's just a one-time meaningless menu selection that never comes up again. Shouldn't they have something to do with the game? But then again, I guess it doesn't matter because you know what? It doesn't matter. They don't come up again. So a common response by many of these left-wingers who claim to be gamers, and whether they are or aren't is up for debate, is that, you know what, it's just not a big deal. They say it's not a big deal that the pronouns are in the game. If you don't like them, well, just pick your standard pronoun, whatever he, she, and move on. Who cares, right? So since it's not a big deal, somebody came up with a mod to remove the entire pronoun segment from their game, and they uploaded that to Nexus Mods, the most popular mod website on the internet. And as a not a big deal, nothing happened. The mod went up, everyone who wanted to download it could download it, Nexus Mods had no problems with it, right? Well, you guessed it, Nexus Mods didn't just pull the mod. They said that no similar mods will be tolerated in the future, and they maligned the mod, and I believe the modder himself, as being intolerant. So apparently it's such a not a big deal that if you dare to try to remove them from your game, and only your game, they'll shut you down. So again, according to the left-wing game journalists, if that's what they really are, and they're not, it's not a big deal when they're in the game, but it sure is a big deal if you try to take them out of the game. And you know what? The same goes for white people who want more than just a handful of characters who look like them in Starfield. If you dare try to mod the game so that it looks like your race isn't going extinct throughout the universe, well, Nexus Mods will pull that mod too and call you horrible. You're a bigot. You're an awful person for wanting to see yourself and your race represented in a video game. So listen up, white people. Don't you dare try to get more representation in video games. But you know what? Let's remember Rules of Fox number 72. That which is treated as a big deal is a big deal to those treating it as a big deal. Dr. Disrespect brings up an interesting issue that this article addresses. I want to read you a quote from him that I think sounds really good and is something I myself used to say back in the 2014 days of a certain archetypal movement that begins with the word gamer and ends with the word gate. Can you guess what it is? And I want to address what Dr. Disrespect is saying because while it may seem like a good idea, it's actually not. Dr. Disrespect said, and I quote, "Politics should stay out of the video game industry entirely," unquote. You see, the problem with a position like that is, well, the genie is out of the bottle, and there's no putting it back in. You see, politics are here, and they're here to stay. There's no way to get them out. And we're not just talking about political subjects in the video games, such as, well, a video game about two rival government factions, a video game about an economy being destabilized and people having to fight each other, a video game about rescuing the president's family, or rescuing the president. No, that's not what we're referring to. We're referring to modern day current issue political agendas being forcibly injected into games even though they seem completely out of context even in the world of that game. Current day political agendas have infiltrated nearly every aspect of the video game industry and the entire video game apparatus. It's too late to say keep politics out of gaming. They're here to stay. They're not going anywhere. Like it or not, and for better or worse. And in most cases it's worse. It's far worse. It's a lot worse. It's infinitely worse. It's just nothing but worse. In fact, it's almost never better to inject modern political agendas in a video game, or a movie, or a comic book, or a book, or anything. So what happens when people who don't want these political agendas in video games simply say things like, well, we're not going to inject politics into games, we're not going to put political issues into our videos? What happens then? Well, I can tell you what happens. That's a completely defensive position. And what happens when all you do is defend? Well, that's right. The attacker slowly gains ground, if by no other means than through pure attrition. So the solution now is simply to fight back against these agendas, not by saying that they shouldn't be there and we're not going to do anything political. The solution is to fight back with our politics. And no, I don't mean injecting our politics into the video games themselves. I really don't think that would help much, but rather to push back against this political agenda and push our own political agenda in video games, the video game industry, and video game spaces. People often talk to me about a culture war, and while I understand why they say that, I don't think we have a culture war. I don't think we have a culture war at all. I think we have a culture massacre. If two nations are at war, and one nation is being completely decimated by the other nation with no chance of winning, just destroyed. Town after town is just obliterated. Would you call that a war or a massacre? Me personally, I see that as a massacre. Why do I say that this is a culture massacre? Well, just take a look around. Who has all the power in all the spaces that matter? In the gaming space, nearly all of the power is to the left-wingers, the radical left. They hold all the power with nearly all the publishers, the developers, the game distribution websites, social media, award shows, conventions, and just about anything you can think of. Seriously, try to think of any major game publisher, game developer, award show, game journalism website of any notoriety, of any popularity, game distribution platform, social media, any of these things. I cut my thumb, that's why there's a band-aid there. Try to think of any of those things where they have a clear, overt conservative bias that they express. Doesn't exist. There isn't one. Now, granted, you may find a few small websites here and there, and maybe there are some YouTubers and some Twitch streamers, but all of these people have to be very, very careful what they say and how they say it, for fear of being banned, suspended, shut down, and basically on-personed, removed from the internet. So, no. There is no major right-wing presence in the video game industry. There isn't even a major conservative presence, much less right-wing. That's nonsense. When you hear people say right-wing, that just reveals that they're super far left-wing, because they see anything right of their position as extreme right. And as a little side tangent, the far left has moved so radically far left, that's left, my right, your left, that they now think anything to the right of them must be a right-winger. So the left-wing anti-gamer journalists will often misrepresent this issue, creating a straw man that they can easily knock down. They'll say that the right-winger gamers out there are claiming that politics shouldn't exist in video games at all in any capacity whatsoever, and then they'll point to many examples where it has. I can recall back as far as the Nintendo, maybe even before then, where games had issues involving the president, the president's family, rival government factions. Political forces are in some games. It's not uncommon to have a game with political issues in it. What we don't want is forcibly injected current day political issues being proselytized to us. You see, it's like the difference between the video games that have religion in it. You visit a church, you get healed up, you save your game, but that's about it. Or maybe there's some religious symbolism in the game, some religious characters that talk to your character. It's the difference between that and a video game that proselytizes its religion to you, trying to get you to convert to its religion. That's also the difference in what we're talking about with politics in games versus current day political agendas being injected into games. We don't want current day, current issue politics being proselytized to us. We don't want it being pushed on us. Now, many left-wingers will say that they're okay with this, but they're actually not. They're only okay with political proselytization when it works to their favor, because if there were to be a game that pushes pro-Second Amendment, pro-firearm rights, I don't think they'd be cool with that. If there were a game that pushed an anti-abortion, pro-life agenda, I don't think they would like that. And heaven forbid there be a video game that's pro-Donald Trump. And just as a side note, no, I don't support Donald Trump. And the reason why is because he's not actually a conservative. You see, everyone running for political office, in my opinion, is not actually elected, they're selected, and they're all left-wing. But Fox, you ask, how do we determine when a game simply has politics in it and when it's politically proselytizing to us? Well, that's not really that easy to define. You see, there are no clear-cut boundaries. I couldn't give you a list of rules by which to follow to easily determine when a game has crossed the line. But instead, I would like to refer to the United States Supreme Court when it made a very poignant statement on the issue of prawn. You know what I'm actually talking about. And they said on that particular issue, and I quote, "We know it when we see it." And so just like the Supreme Court knows it when they see it, as dealing with prawn, then you too and I and most gamers can easily see when a game is proselytizing politics to us versus simply has political issues in it. Anyone pretending that they can't tell the difference is being coy. We know it when we see it because we're real gamers. And as real gamers, we know forcibly injected, out of context, current day political agendas in games when we see them. And they are most definitely, I assure you, they are most definitely a big deal. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you that watches my videos, especially those of you that comment. Please make sure to ever so gently tap the like button. Please don't smash or smack or hit or spank or do anything else to that like button. Treat the like button with the utmost care and respect, because that button is one of the most important buttons on this video. So ever so gently tap that like button. Also, tap the subscribe button, hit the notification bell icon, and don't forget to check the video description below for links to my social media, and stay tuned for another shilling of my novel, New Tokyo. I'm Fox with RealMarcFoxx, and as always, stay fresh, cheese bags. Don't forget to grab your copy of New Tokyo, available on Amazon in Kindle, Kindle Unlimited, and paperback formats.
Did you just assume my gender?